Yeah, because we're right Saturday day, Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Saturday night.
Iowa.
Family. Eskerville. 3 hours. Pick 169 pretty much all the way down. No. Oh, it's like.
Are they rearranging plans for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit. Because I never asked you that. They call on my weekend at school. It's just, I don't know the beginning here in January. In December.
Oh, right.
Let alone with COVID.
That's safe work.
Yeah.
You have to grab your days off.
Well, we didn't do that last year because of COVID, and this year there was actually distance thing out there. Just for the outside. Then again, then she comes with Florida.
Oh, no kidding?
So there's a lot.
Where do you guys meet?
It's a,
I work on it at 6:30.
it's on a cable.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is weird because.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. We're not just staying out of here. Yeah. Who knows, yeah.
Yeah, they can't tell you.
Everywhere you want.
Yeah.
I've got 20 people coming to my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I got 2 cousins and their families.
Yeah. They wouldn't want to.
No, it's chili or oyster stew, yeah.
I can't have it. Yeah. Clam chowder.
Yeah, I just didn't know what the cafeteria was going to propose. It's just like said, it's people who just not in front of them. I hope something was the insane 100%. I ever went to the hotel rooms that night because it was downtown. You're staying in the hotel. You're still.
Now it's just, you know, we decided not to. Convenient.
No. Yeah.
Okay, well, aren't you going to give us something? Nothing?
That's fine. Yeah. I bumped into Sam and it's out in the car, so I was like, hey, that's my Christmas present.
Maybe you should have known where.
City.
Oh,
you're fine.
Yeah, just going through just.
I'm turning the corner. Really? Small world. Yeah, okay. I really love it. Because he was coming this way. It's like, oh, I am so sorry. I'm sorry, he's recording.
I heard.
Did you want it? I'm very lucky. And I actually have soccer. You know, this place is not a crew.
Oh, you're.
We have somebody who. Are you working?
Yeah. One of my really good friends is a photographer.
It's already passed.
I have major. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of it. Cheap.
She was just her background. And then she's worked at.
Yeah.
That's actually, I started my career as a hero.
start shortly, everyone, probably within the next 60 seconds. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Love me. You betcha. I'll give it to Lucy. He's a speeder.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I saw your message on
Appreciate it.
Brother, yeah. He told me get down here now. How you doing, Daunte?
Hey, good.
Oh, not going to work. This is the city of Brooklyn Center right here.
Yeah, I'm good. I know. Huh? Trying to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate you.
All right, y'all. This mic is sending me live right now. Just FYI, everybody. It's now unmuted.
Yeah.
Great job. Well, I think maybe for his first shot, he's just, you want to stand alone or you want us to start? I think stand alone.
it's okay. It's all right.
It just happened.
In response to the jury finding former Brooklyn Center police officer Kim Potter guilty of first-degree and second-degree manslaughter, the following statement: today's guilty verdict, in the trial of former Brooklyn Center officer Kim Potter for the killing of Daunte Wright, is an important moment for accountability, but no verdict can deliver true justice to Daunte Wright, his family, and his loved ones. True justice is Daunte being here with us, with his family, and with his young child. To deliver that life-affirming justice, we must not be content with accountability after this tragedy. We must all fully commit ourselves to creating a city where everyone can thrive, where everyone is safe from police violence. Our community continues to grieve alongside Daunte's family and alongside all the families who have lost loved ones to police violence. And the verdict today is an important part of the healing process. But we know that it is not enough by itself. The City of Brooklyn Center is fully committed to implementing the Daunte Wright and Kobe Demick Hasler Community Safety and Violence Prevention Resolution passed by the City Council in May. Fully implementing this transformative resolution will prevent more deaths at the hands of law enforcement and create a community where everyone has the resources and is supported in a way necessary to thrive. It is the best way to honor and to begin delivering justice for Daunte Wright and his family. Safe communities are communities where people are invested in, where people thrive. Today I'm calling on the governor and the state legislature to direct a substantial portion of the state surplus to communities like Brooklyn Center. I am committed to helping build a transformative future here in Brooklyn Center, where our residents are able to thrive and build meaningful lives. We're strong in Brooklyn Center. Our community will heal, and we will rebuild together. I, as mayor, am committed to building an economically just community. I believe this is central to creating real and meaningful public safety. We can and we will achieve this ambitious vision by rolling up our sleeves and doing the work of transformative justice rooted firmly in the principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. Our work is to make those words real. Thank you. Now, there are several individuals and organizations who have been critical to the work done here in Brooklyn Center. The work to respond to the uprising, the rebellion that we saw in the aftermath of the killing of Daunte Wright. Several individuals and organizations I want to also recognize and invite up to speak. But before that, I want to recognize our Brooklyn Center City Council Mayor Pro Tem, Marquita Butler, who has been a champion for the work that we're doing here in Brooklyn Center. She has demonstrated leadership, she's demonstrated courage, and without her, none of the work that we're doing here in Brooklyn Center would even be possible. So, Mayor Pro Tem, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. First and foremost, I just want to say my heart goes out to Daunte Wright's family, friends, and community. This is a small victory today with the verdict, but definitely we have so much more work to do. Unfortunately, many Black and brown community members have been impacted negatively by our police department in the past, and as council members, we are committed to ensuring that those type of instances are not going to continue to happen in Brooklyn Center. With the resolution that Mayor Elliott named, we're continuing to work towards progress on implementing that resolution. And I encourage and implore all council members, community members, police department, city officials to come together so that we can get it done. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nakima Levy-Armstrong. I'm a civil rights attorney, activist, and founder of the Racial Justice Network. I want to first give thanks and honor to the family of Daunte Wright for allowing our community to walk alongside of them in their pursuit of justice and accountability. We know that this whole process has been a heavy lift. It's caused a lot of grief in their family, knowing that no matter what the outcome was in the court of law, that they will still be without their son, their brother, and Daunte's child will be without his father. However, at the same time, we are grateful for the decision of those members of the jury who looked past all of the shenanigans in the courtroom, who looked past folks who were trying to blame Daunte Wright for his own death, and who at the end of the day saw Daunte's humanity and reached a just verdict by holding Kim Potter accountable under the law, which is exactly what should have happened. The reality is that Daunte Wright never should have been pulled over in the first place. And so it's our hope that today's decision will help to save lives, particularly of young Black people driving through Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, Minneapolis, as well as surrounding suburbs. Because all too often, racial profiling is a major issue. It has been one that has been known in this state for a very long time, and neither of our elected officials on the Democrat or Republican side have taken action to address racial profiling. So we hope that this is a call to action, and we hope that members of law enforcement will think twice before they pull someone over for an air freshener, for expired tabs, or based on a so-called hunch. We deserve to be able to drive through the Twin Cities just as a white resident would. We're thankful for the leadership of Mayor Elliott, who faced quite a bit of backlash for standing on his truth and pushing for justice and accountability and pushing for an overhaul of the way that policing works in the city of Brooklyn Center. The model that is being proposed should be one that is heralded by folks across the nation who care about police reform, who care about shifting the way that traffic stops are done, and who care about ending racial profiling, as well as the way in which police respond to mental health calls and whether police should even come out at all when someone is facing a mental health crisis, as in the case of Kobe Heisler. We're thankful for those city council members in Brooklyn Center who are standing in solidarity with the mayor and pushing for a change. And we are grateful as well for every single community member and activist and organizer who stepped forward and called for accountability. Those who even drove all the way to Stillwater multiple times to demonstrate outside of the home of Washington County Attorney Pete Orpett, who we said in the first place was undercharging the case, who had no business overseeing a Hennepin County case, and who had no experience in prosecuting police officers who have killed people. And so those folks made the sacrifice to drive to Stillwater, to demand accountability, as well as to petition the governor to remove the case from County Attorney Pete Orpett and to place it into the hands of the Attorney General. We have now seen two outstanding results through our justice process because the case has been placed in the hands of the Attorney General's office, who has significantly more resources and has more of a drive to prosecute killer cops than what we see from local county attorneys. So we call on Governor Walz to take his leadership a step further. He listened to the community, he listened to our calls when he placed the case into the hands of the Attorney General, but what we also need for him to do is to establish an office of the independent prosecutor so that these cases can be routinely handled by special prosecutors who will hold people accountable, police officers accountable, when they unjustly take the lives of others. Thank you all for covering this case as part of the media. Thank you to the public for standing in solidarity and demanding justice. Our work is not done. We also want to see the police officer who was responsible for killing Linnell Frazier held accountable under the law when his trial comes up, as well as the other 3 police officers who were responsible for the murder of George Floyd. Thank you.
My name is Tashira Garraway. I am the founder of Families Supporting Families Against Police Violence. And I am also, first and foremost, the fiance and the mother of Justin Tigan's now 15-year-old son. Justin Tigan was brutally beat to death by the St. Paul Police August 19, 2009, and thrown inside of a trash dumpster here in the state of Minnesota by the St. Paul Police. Today is a different day for the people who have suffered loss at the hands of law enforcement here in the state of Minnesota. Our families have fought together along with the Wright family, and the Wright family has fought alongside our families ever since Daunte was murdered. It's an emotional day because it's a different feeling that it might be for all of you. For us to sit, for the people that lost loved ones, for us to sit and watch someone that was supposed to be held accountable today. What happened today was the right thing to do. As all the human beings that made that decision did the right thing. We're asking that the state of Minnesota do the right thing for all of the hundreds of bodies that led up to George Floyd and Daunte Wright. Daunte Wright and George Floyd is the face of hundreds of murders here in the state of Minnesota that have been covered up, of black men, and the officers were allowed to walk free. And just like Daunte Wright and George Floyd are the face of those bodies that no one talks about, that have been swept under the rug, Derek Chauvin and Kim Potter is the face of hundreds of murders, killer cops that are here in the state of Minnesota, that are at home with their families on Christmas time, that are still patrolling our streets. We have the BCA that have helped cover up hundreds of murders that led up to Daunte Wright and George Floyd. The BCA is a part of these cover-ups. They've done this. The BCA did that to Daunte Wright's family and George Floyd's family. The police did not get to this place of all these bodies by themselves. It's with the help of the BCA, who's supposed to investigate the murders, but in fact, they have helped to cover up the murders. Our families are tired. Our community is tired. I want to say thank you for a man of integrity, Mike Elliott, that stood up that day and said, release those videos. I want to say thank you to the rest of the community leaders that have stood alongside our families to demand justice for not only Daunte Wright and George Floyd, but for all of the families. Because every last man, human being that have shed blood on these streets here in the state of Minnesota, life matters. So we thank you. We have been in support of each other. Our families are in solidarity. Our community is in solidarity. And we will not allow this to continue to happen to human beings. And everyone that makes a decision, Keith Ellison, the governor, all of you guys should be thinking right now in your heart that we have to do the same thing, the same way that we fought for Daunte Wright, for the rest of the people that led up to Daunte Wright. Because if the right thing was done prior to Daunte Wright, there would not be a Daunte Wright. If Kim Potter was held accountable when she walked in the house and told the rest of the officers to turn their cameras off when Kobe Heisler was killed, is Kobe Heisler's life not just as important? No. We're going to hold these officers accountable, the BCA accountable, the governor accountable, Keith Ellison accountable, Drew Evans accountable for all of the lives that they've stolen for us. So I stand here in representation of all of those families. Justice for Daunte Wright and all stolen lives. Thank you.
Jaylani Hussein, Executive Director of CARE Minnesota. I want to start by saying guilty, guilty. For far too long in this country, police officers have hunted black and brown bodies all over this country. And this particular case with Daunte Wright, it was another hunting of a black man. When they could not find other reasons, they declared that he had air fresheners. Today, in the state of Minnesota, that jury said that police officers are not above the law. And this is what we've been asking for far too long: accountability and transparency. But justice means that we seek not justice inside the courthouse, but that we seek justice outside the courthouse. And that means not only preventing police officers from killing unarmed black people particularly, but that police officers understand that their job is to protect people, not take the lives of people who are innocent. And we Minnesotans have to wake up now in this moment and realize that after the killing of George Floyd and Daunte Wright, that there is something good in this state that God chose us in the middle of one of the worst injustice in this country, that our state and the people who live here have now the burden to move this nation forward so that law enforcement can actually do what they say they do for all people in this country. We are tired of a black America and a white America. We want an America for everyone. And so there are many people who believe that today is the end, but today is just a new day. We can see the warmth that we saw today outside. That type of warmth is what we need in our communities. Many people will be going to the holidays and reimagining what this case means. I want you to look at your teenagers and see if one of them was not with you because an officer could not recognize the difference between a taser and a gun. Daunte Wright should be here, and the countless others who have been taken unjustly should be here. But it brought us all together in this moment to demand justice and to demand that we create a public safety that is less harm. And I'm proud of the Brooklyn Center, City Council, particularly the black 2 City Council women and the mayor for not sitting idle, but instead listening to the community and bringing forth the Daunte Wright and Kobe Heisler resolution, a resolution that will do less harm and provide better public safety for all who live in the city and work. This resolution should be, while it's not perfect, it should be the beginning of what we could see in other cities across the state. Today, we are talking about Kim Potter. But really what we're talking about, a system that is corrupt, a system that refuses to recognize injustice, and for all the racist police officers who exist, know that we are coming for you. That today, Kim Potter is going to where she belongs, prison. And that will be the case for anyone who thinks that they can be above the law. We say Daunte Wright, we say Kobe Heisler, but we say those names so that no other names can be said. So that we protect children who are not born yet today from being pulled over because they have air fresheners and to be killed by another officer who said they made a mistake. I hope that our state and the people who are here today can say we believe and we are going to make a difference. I am a firm believer that while we are happy with this guilty verdict, there are so much work to be done outside the courthouse, and that is what we're going to invest in. And for Katie and Aubrey, they have taken a lot, and this entire family, but they have become one of the most powerful voices in passing the Daunte Wright Kobe Heisler resolution, showing up every night to those meetings and demanding the city council to do what it said it will do. And to them we say, you have done more for this community than many people because you have used your moment to safeguard generations that are yet to be born. We thank you for that, and we are with you. And we will fight for justice by any means necessary.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Foreman. I'm lead organizer with the Black Barbershop Cooperative. I am on staff with Isaiah and Faith of Minnesota, and I'm here to just kind of reiterate what we've all just heard. The powerful and passionate testimony and declaration from these dynamic leaders, I think is obvious. I'll try my best not to repeat. What I want to do is give you a different perspective, though. So, I'm 50 years old. I am not the same person I was when I was 23, 20, 25, 19. One of the things I want us to understand is that there has been a social complacency and a normalization to kill brown and black bodies. to completely take away the life of potential leaders in this country, potential scientists in this country, potential clergy, potential teachers. And I don't think sometimes we're grounded in that enough. We get caught up in bureaucracy. We want to talk about policies. We want to talk about Kim Potter. But what we really need to uplift is the voices of the people who are on the grounds, the people who are directly impacted by this kind of reckless behavior that we see over and over again. There's a reason why Sister Toshira gets up here and can barely say words out of her mouth without becoming emotional. The damage, the dismissiveness, the disrespect that our community face on a day-to-day basis does not stop because Kim Potter goes to jail. We have to find ways to prevent this kind of reckless behavior of going on. No more is it socially accepted to just kill us and not be held accountable. No more will we have an environment where all we want to do is concentrate on the actual officer and dismiss the systemic abuse that happens on a day-to-day basis. No more of that. So do I celebrate today? Because a brother's life has been observed, he's been publicly seen, he's been valued, and there's been some kind of slight justice? Yeah, let's celebrate. I think it's time for that. We need joy. But I think we need to understand that there's a real system out here that is organizing every day to ensure that we don't continue having these small victories. What I call for us to do in this moment is go out on your blocks, go to your neighbors, call up the Wright family, call up the Heisler family, call up families and offer agency to people. Offer a pathway for people to utilize their voices in a constructive way for real change to happen. We're not lifting up the protest enough. Without the protest, there's no attention on it. We're not lifting up the work that needed to be done on the grounds to funnel that frustration, to politicize that pain, so we can have the outcomes we need to say, you know what, we are somebody in this country too. I make no mistakes in being the director of the Barbershop and Black Congregation Cooperative, and my focus is organizing both brown and black lives in this state. But now, as an organizer, I have to go back and make meaning with people. And all we have right now, what are we looking at? 36 months, 40 months, I don't know. That doesn't equate to the life of this young brother. So I want us to be joyful. We are gaining some kind of traction. There is some consistency. The organizing in Stillwater to make sure that the Attorney General's office step in, I think that was done. That's brilliant. And then you have the organizing on the grounds with our brothers and sisters that BBCC was so much very a part of. But I think what's more important is how do we actually go get our people? How do we on-ramp our people to prevent this from happening again? This is unacceptable. And if there's anything that I want you all to say in media, it's that we're done with it. Brother Elijah says it. We're done with the old. We're in with the new, you all. We're not accepting this anymore. And I'll leave that as that.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Gross, and I'm president of Communities United Against Police Brutality. And of course, we are gratified at the result of the jury verdict today. We are pleased that the jury took the time to properly deliberate and come to the correct conclusion. But I want it to be known that Kim Potter is only the 5th officer in the history of the state of Minnesota who has been prosecuted for killing a member of the community, only the 5th. And when we look at the nearly 500 people who have been killed by police in the state of Minnesota since the year 2000, we know that that number is unacceptable. You cannot have 5 officers held accountable for nearly 500 deaths. This is unacceptable. And so we joined the call for an independent prosecution office so that we can have much more attention paid to these horrible cases, the cases that Tashira talked about extensively, and so that we can work towards some measure of justice for families of people killed by police. We need that to happen. But now we need to look forward. And what we need to look forward to are the kinds of things that Mayor Elliott and the Brooklyn Center City Council have advocated for, which include expanded response networks, such as mental health crisis responders for mental health crisis calls, so that we don't have untrained officers with a particular agenda going out to calls like Kobe Heisler and Travis Jordan and so many others. We need to have non-sworn people involved in non-moving traffic violations. There was no reason in the world that an officer needed to pull over Daunte Wright, not one. What could have happened and what will happen in the future if we are successful in implementing all of the changes that Mayor Elliott and the council have put forward through their resolution is that non-sworn individuals would simply write down that license plate number and send that individual a note saying you need to update your license plates. You need to get that tail light fixed. You need to take that air freshener out of your window. Those are the kinds of things that we need. We need mental health crisis. We need non-sworn officers dealing with non-moving traffic violations. And we need social workers in a social response team for those kinds of situations like wellness checks and other things that don't require a licensed law enforcement officer. We need to expand our response networks, and we need to take officers out of the business of responding to things that don't require a law enforcement license. It's too dangerous to the community to have law enforcement continue to respond to those things. And so I'm here to stand with the city administration of Brooklyn Center to assist them anywhere along the way that I can and that our organization can to implement their resolution, because that resolution is the way forward. And I thank you.
We have one more speaker, and then we're going to open it up for brief Q&A.
Hi everyone, my name is Zaina Mohammed. I'm the Community Advocacy Manager for CARE Minnesota. First I want to say my sincere condolences are with the family and friends of Daunte Wright, who have suffered an unimaginable loss. As a community, we must hold them close in this time of grief and in their healing. I'm so very proud of our community across the state of Minnesota who have come together and unapologetically declared that Daunte Wright's life mattered. He deserved better and he should be alive. The police killing of Daunte Wright should teach us all that we need to get serious about putting an end to deadly low-level stops and consider other avenues for addressing basic traffic violations. We must do better by Daunte, his family, and the countless others who have been harmed by this practice. I wish healing for the family of Daunte Wright, for his friends, our community. May his memory inspire us all to strive for a better, more just state that recognizes the humanity in all of us.
All right, so thank you, everybody. We will now just, take a few questions.
Hey, Mayor, the funding now passed for this new resolution. What are now the next steps to get the ball rolling on all this?
We are going to, as a next step, form the implementation committee, which will be appointed in the first part of the new year. And that implementation committee will begin working out the details of the new departments that were created in the resolution. We also have been interviewing for the project manager position that's going to really help shepherd the whole implementation process, and we'll have that position in place as well by the first of the year. And so beginning early 2022, we will start the process, probably going into March, the process of hiring and training social workers, mental health workers, the director of the Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention. So we'll start the hiring process within the first quarter of the new year.
And who's hiring for the implementation committee? What does that look like?
Certainly. So the application is still available right now for people in our community to apply. Once people apply, the applications are reviewed and the appointments are made by me. And once the appointments are made, then the city council will approve those appointments, and then folks are able to join the committee, and then we'll begin that very important work of looking at the model that we've put forward. And we're also working with technical experts like LEAP, which stands for the Law Enforcement Action Partnership. That organization works with a number of cities to analyze 911 call data and help communities develop response models. And again, Brooklyn Center, according to the analysis of our own police department that was done in 2019, on 2019 calls, Brooklyn Center sees 22% of its calls coming in that are criminal, or crime related, I should say. And the rest are non-crime related. They're mental health calls, they're medical calls, they're call for help, they're calls, people calling in and saying, hey, I haven't heard from my mother in a few days, can you please just send someone and go and check on her? Well, we don't necessarily need an armed police officer to go and do that. That would be the work of social worker, paramedics, that kind of community response team that this resolution has called for.
Mayor, this came up a few times during the trial, but can I just get your reaction to the statement that your firing of the chief and the city manager were just political moves?
Well, I want to be careful because, those are now former employees of the city. However, what I can say is those were decisions supported by the City Council of Brooklyn Center, and those were decisions that were based in what the council believed was the best interest of the city in addressing the issue that was before us.
Mayor Elliott, I just want to ask a quick question. During the time of the jury when they was doing the selection, how did you feel when you heard the verdict?
Well, I'm sorry, say that again. Repeat the question, please.
What was your reaction once you heard the verdict?
Oh, certainly. Well, I should say that all of us, I think, watching the trial, were keenly interested in justice and in accountability. And I felt that the jury, deliberated for quite some time and was rather thoughtful about all of the information that it received. And I thought that the prosecutors did an important job in presenting the state's case. And I thought that the jury made the right decision in holding the former officer accountable. And I felt that this was an important moment for our city, for our community, for our state. And so I'm greatly relieved. I think that this is also going to go a long way in helping to heal. Let's help the community heal by seeing what accountability looks like in the state of Minnesota.
Mayor, I have a question. As we move forward with this community safety, how will you continue to work with your police department that you have now, and kind of what will that relationship look like going forward?
We're certainly centering the voices of people who have been affected by policing in our community. And that is going to continue to be the case going forward. However, we're going to have a panel of technical experts, including LEAP, which I mentioned earlier, and Our police department personnel will also be a part of that technical expertise team, and they will provide information to the implementation committee as it does its work and as it requires information, as it considers the various models. It will get input from the police department, our police department as well.
One last question for you, Mayor. Do you have, Michelle was kind of talking about what this traffic safety division could look like. Do you have like a definition yet for what kind of non-moving violations we're talking about? I know she gave an example, but if you could elaborate.
Certainly. We get a lot of calls that come in to 911 involving traffic, involving parking issues. So parking issues will certainly be one of those. And the model really has to be flushed out through the work of the implementation committee, but you know, one could envision, you know, a civilian traffic response team responding to you know, fender benders, or where there are accidents and, you know, there isn't a life-threatening situation perhaps, or, you know, all of the details really need to be flushed out. Could be that they're mailing, you know, if they see a tab that's expired, you know, they're able to send something in the mail that says you need to renew your tabs. But all of those details need to be worked out in accordance with Minnesota law. Right? In Minnesota, you have to be a licensed peace officer in order to pull a vehicle over. So they're not necessarily going to be pulling vehicles over, but they'll be able to do, I think, a significant amount of traffic safety work, you know, that police currently do.
Said at the podium today that we're kind of breaking away from the old way and making a new way now. And it was also said that a lot of people are looking at what's happening in Minnesota and kind of learning from what you're going through, and then also the plans that you're putting in place for the future. I'm curious to know if you've had the conversations with folks from around the country, different communities that are kind of looking at the plans that are in here or are going to be in place now and saying, could this work for us in our community too? If so, can you share that?
Certainly. We're in communication and conversations with communities all around the country that are interested in the work that we're doing here in Brooklyn Center to transform public safety. Evanston, Illinois is a community that actively is specifically looking at our resolution and working to pass, you know, a version for their own community. There are a number of communities that I've been in contact with that are looking at the Brooklyn Center model, and including there's some communities around here in Minnesota as well that are looking at various, you know, parts of what we're doing, you know. But you know, it's one of those things, right? As they say, change is hard. You go first.
I'd just like to ask a quick question to Dr. Nakima Armstrong. She made a post about Kim Porter when she was in the courtroom crying, if you will, crocodile tears. Now we're seeing as the video, as her photos going viral, she's smiling doing her booking. So what do you have to say about that?
I think that it's despicable to see Kim Potter smiling in a new mugshot, knowing the harm that she has inflicted upon the Wright family by unjustly taking their loved one. I also was very concerned about her performance in the courtroom, and that the tears that she shed were not on behalf of Daunte Wright. The tears were about herself and the fact that she was at risk of going to prison. I hope that other law enforcement officers learn from this experience of what happened with Kim Potter, and knowing that there is a possibility that they will be held accountable under the law if they violate people's rights, as what we saw happen in this case. Any other questions? Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, everyone.